PlayStations and handhelds. A once promising prospect that eventually fizzled out. But with the recent resurgence in handheld gaming, Sony has once more thrown their hat back into the space with the upcoming PlayStation Portal. So join me as I take a look at Sony's handheld gaming history and look towards its future. Sony's first proper handheld started with the PSP, or the PlayStation Portable. Get it? It's PlayStation, but portable. The first mentions was at E3 2003, but we would not get a reveal until 2004, with the console releasing in December 2004 in Japan, with it getting a worldwide release across the year 2005. The PSP would sell a very respectable 80 million plus units in its lifetime. But what about my history with the device? Well, it was that festive time of year, and all I wanted for Christmas was an Xbox 360. But they were all sold out, so I asked Santa for a PSP instead. Because getting a PSP was not top priority at the time, since I already had a Nintendo DS, which just had more games I was generally interested in. But I ended up really enjoying the PSP for a variety of reasons, so let's look at one. This is a PSP 2000 model in silver. There are various models of the PSP that don't change things too readily, apart from the PSP Go, which had more inbuilt storage than the other models, but no UMD drive. Fun fact, this is actually my third PSP. As a teenager, I traded in my PSP for probably not a lot of money, then brought another one a few years later. Then I sold off that one as well. Then I brought one last year, which is the one you're looking at now. The PSP has a similar button layout from that of a PS2 controller, with X, circle, square and triangle face buttons, a D-pad, only one analog stick compared to the two of the PS2. It's more of a analog knob than a stick. Also, only two shoulder buttons, compared to the four of a PS2 controller. We do get start and select buttons, along with some function buttons for things like volume and navigating to the home screen. The interface for the PSP is the XMB, or the Cross Media Bar. This was used for the PSP and the PlayStation 3. It's called the Cross Media Bar because you move across left or right from video, game, network, music, and so on. You can also have themes. I've got a Persona 3 theme. The PSP uses a disc called UMD, or Universal Media Disc, which is a mini disc within a case. A single layer disc holds up to 900 megabytes, and a dual layer disc holds 1.8 gigabytes. To save games and game data, you need a memory stick duo memory card. But in the present day, you can buy a microSD card adapter that'll work for the PSP. Let's talk about games. The PSP had a wide variety of games, with the PSP sporting graphics somewhere between a PS1 and a PS2, putting it ahead of its competitors in the handheld space. Some of the most impressive games were the GTA games, Liberty City and Vice City Stories, which offered the same open world gameplay found in the PS2 games, scaled down slightly to fit onto a handheld. We also got versions of PlayStation franchises, such as God of War and Gran Turismo, to name a few. There were also ports of many other franchises also. But when I was younger, I failed to get into the library. I liked a lot of the games, but nothing really held my attention. Which is probably why I sold my PSP twice. But there was another thing I used my PSP for. I'm talking about the PSP as a media player. To be more precise, the PSP was an MP4 player, so it can play music and video. But another unique thing about the system is there were many films and TV shows released on the UMD format. Before the advent of smartphones and streaming apps, the PSP was probably the best way to watch media on the go, so that's what I mostly used my PSP for back in the day. So in the year 2023, what is the PSP good for? Well, my opinion on the library has changed. Maybe with the passage of time, my taste has changed, or maybe it's just generally easier to find games that I'm interested in, because we got ports of Persona 1 to 3, we got a Like a Dragon game, Castlevania Dracula X, Loco, and so much more. Also, you can play PS1 games, so that's another load of games as well. Something else I can take advantage of more now is the fact that it's region free. There was a ton of stuff that never made its way out of Japan. In Japan I picked up this Code Geass game. I don't know Japanese, so I don't know quite what's going on. I think it might be a visual novel of some kind. It also comes with a UMD movie as well. So this leaves the door open for a lot more games. You can even get English translation for some of these games. For example, Black Panther Like a Dragon. This leads on to custom firmware and jailbreaking, which means pretty much the whole PSP library, as well as a lot of PS1 games, are now open to you. Jailbreaking your PSP is very easy, and people have been doing it from the early days of the PSP, which did mean piracy was very rampant on the system, which I feel actually affected the Vita, but we'll get on to that later. Next I have to mention the PSP has a bit of a homebrew community as well, so you got some homebrew games to add on some value to that PSP. But what are the downsides to the PSP? First, when using the UMD, it can be kinda loud when reading the disc. Another one is that load times can sometimes be an issue. The last big issue is PSP does not have the same amount of buttons as a standard controller, meaning some games just suffer from the lack of buttons.
PlayStation このソフト1枚で2つの PSP を動かします。そちらは入ってませんね。それでは。
お、動いてる。
ソフト一つでゲームシェアリング、ナムコミュージアムから。
これマジックじゃないよね。
PSP
After the PSP came the PlayStation Vita. But Sony did not see much life in the Vita. with it selling somewhere between 14 to 16 million units, launching in late 2011 in Japan, and the rest of the world in 2012. As for the device itself, the button layout is similar to that of the PSP, but we now got analog sticks, 2 of them. We also got front and back touchscreens. No UMD slot. We got PS Vita cards to play our games on now. If you got the first Vita model, you even get an OLED screen. That's the one I've got. No cross media bar. We have kind of a touchscreen app interface. Graphically and performance wise, the system is somewhere between a PS2 and a PS3. Let's get on to the games. Probably the most high profile was Uncharted Golden Abyss, which was very impressive for a handheld, with it having graphics that were not too far away from the PS3 Uncharted games. You've got Gravity Rush and Tearaway. That are some other big first party games. But in 2013, Sony said that they were shifting focus away from the Vita to the PS4. Sony publicly stated that they would be developing less first party games for the system, which also meant a lot of big third party developers stopped making games for the handheld. Was it due to low sales? Or were the system's low sales due to the lack of many high profile games? Or maybe it's just because of the rampant piracy in the original PSP that many developers were just put off by the system generally. But I still found a lot of great stuff to play on the system. I still got my original PS Vita. The game I spent the most time playing was Persona 4 Golden, which was my introduction to this series. You can find more about that with my Persona 4 video. So unlike the PSP, there was one big game that caught my attention. There are also some other great PS2 ports, like Metal Gear Solid HD and the Final Fantasy X game collection. The Vita was still very popular in Japan, so a lot of Japanese devs were still releasing stuff like Danganronpa and Dragon's Crown. But the indie devs supported the hell out of the system, which made up a lot of my personal library of Vita games. Rogue Legacy, Hotline Miami, Shovel Knight, Super Meat Boy, to name a few. If you had a PS3 or PS4, when you bought many of these indie games, they would be cross-buy with the Vita. Meaning, if you had a Vita and a PlayStation home console, this was the best place to buy indie games. But that's not all. The PS Vita was also backwards compatible with the PSP. Well, only digitally, since there's no UMD slot. But hey, it's better than nothing. It can also emulate PS1 games like the PSP also. The Vita can't play UMD movies due to the lack of UMD drive, but it's still an MP4 player. Also, there are streaming apps, even though some of them are losing support. It also has its own expensive proprietary memory card as well. But the PS Vita did slowly fizzle out, especially with the arrival of the Nintendo Switch, taking a lot of the smaller indie developers and Japanese developers also, with a handheld with actual first-party support. Sony had no plans for any future handheld devices.
The stages of the game will also be based on famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. So here's this giant enemy crab.
PSP, huh?
Yeah.
Sweet! That thing morphs. That's more. Oh, it will morph. It's morphing. That morphed. It morphed. That's it. Square, square. Dude, you can shoot that thing? Shoot that thing. Force field. Get the force field. Get up in there and shoot that. Drop a cluster bomb. Cluster bomb. Bash the creep. No. Cluster bombs. Cluster bomb. Ugh.
Dude, get your own.
But the Switch proved handheld gaming is still a viable option. We now have the rise of PC handhelds, such as the Steam Deck, cementing that fact. But rumours started rumbling that Sony was getting back into the space. This year, it was announced the PlayStation Portal would be coming out, this very same year. Unfortunately, it's limited to being a handheld that can use remote play with the PS5. So what is remote play? It's the ability to play your PlayStation consoles onto a handheld device over Wi-Fi. So it's basically a Wii U controller with more input lag. It's not even a new feature. The PSP and the Vita could both remote play also, as well as being a standalone handheld. But don't worry, the PlayStation Portal is only £200. The device is not out yet, but it's fair to say it's not for me. I did a bit of remote play from my PS4 to my Vita back in the day, and the results were not great. It might be better now, but you're still going to need good home Wi-Fi if you want a chance of making it work. But having no ability to play games outside your home makes it more of a PS5 accessory than a handheld gaming device. I mean, you can get a Switch Lite for the same price, which is much better value for money, but I'm sure some people will have use for it. As I'm making this video, it's currently sold out on Amazon. I hear it's also doing well in Japan, but they do have very good internet over there. But hey, that was my look at Sony's handhelds. I didn't mention the Pocket Station, which was just really Sony's answer to the Dreamcast VMU, which made it more of an accessory, or certainly made outside of Japan. So, leave a comment if you have any fond memories of the PSP or the Vita in the old comments in the comment place in YouTube's. Oh, now that's refocused. Also leave a comment if you're going to get the PlayStation Portal. Oh, I made that shape. But anywho, this video is now ending, so like, subscribe, and other things of that nature, engagement, and all those fun things. Anyway, I'm going to send him to the end of the video, doing whatever, maybe something funny, maybe nothing at all, probably something a little bit cringe. Fancy a recommended video, maybe there, if that's where it's going to go, or maybe over here, or something over there. Anyway, I'm going to stand here, something's going to happen, then the video is going to end. Or maybe the camera will just lose focus constantly. You focus now, camera? Look, right here. It does not like this lighting. Anywho, I think that's probably going to be the end, isn't it? Sayonara.